Hello and welcome to Rogue Artisans and Crafters, winner of the 2018 Southern Oregon Television Awards for Best Arts and Culture Show. I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow. We welcome you, our viewer, to our show where we feature local artists and craftspeople here in Southern Oregon, and we would talk to our featured artists about how they came to their art, what drives them as artists, and find out stories behind their art process, and how their work as artists influences their lives. Today we're pleased to feature local artist Ben Wood. I found Ben a few weeks ago while attending the Medford Art in Bloom event, and Ben had a painting of the table rocks that caught my attention, and I found that he also works and produces ceramics as well as working on his unique style of paintings. And so today we will talk to Ben Wood about his life as an artist and the work that he pursues today with his art. And so we welcome Ben to the show.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
Glamour
quite welcome.
Dave.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to have you here. You've got some really cool, unique style to your painting work, and as well as doing some wonderful, unique ceramics. And the fact that you're pursuing two medium, I thought was a good thing to have you on the show about.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So to begin with, how long have you been working as a professional artist?
As a professional artist, I really took the leap, so to speak, this year.
Yeah, okay.
There was a time before college and through college that I was really focused on being a professional artist alone, but found myself really enjoying teaching as well. And so I spent that interim doing a lot of teaching, and about this year really has been the year that I just really took the leap and I'm doing 100%.
Okay, so this is your breakout year,
That's
so to speak.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad that our show is going to help you out with that breakout activity.
Me too, thank you.
So how did you come about doing the art that you're doing today? What was the path that got you to doing what you're doing?
Boy, this is multi-generational.
Yeah.
How long is this show?
28 and a half minutes.
Well, my father was an artist, is an artist, and his whole life was art.
Yeah.
And so when I was born, the first things he did was put paintbrush and paper in front of me.
Yeah.
So some of my first memories were just moving paints across paper and how profound it was to create.
Yeah, right.
And the different emotions that could be happening depending on the color and the stroke and the relationships between those things. And so I started at a very young age, and it's just been a thread through my life. And sometimes I took it more seriously and less seriously, and now I'm diving in.
Right. Well, you know, that's a common thread that I've seen in a lot of my artists that I've profiled is that they come from a family where art is a really strong influence with their parents and their grandparents. You know, it just seems to be kind of like a generational thing that in some families, and so that's totally understandable. That you've got that influence and that kind of drives you into what you're doing. In terms of your paintings that you're doing today, I mean, you're doing fairly large size pieces of work.
Yeah.
What got you into doing that, taking that large size approach to your art?
I've always been drawn to an experience, and I'm a big person. I'm 6'4", and I'm rather athletic. Yeah. So I like my art form is almost a performance in the creation of it itself. I like to work quickly, and I don't mind if there's physical challenges in the creation of the product. And I really like sharing an experience with a person. Yeah. And so I want my artwork to not only be something pretty, you know, it's something that people enjoy to look at, but when they walk into the room and it's that artwork is there, that it almost demands that they take a voyage into it. And I found this size really helps to make that happen. Yeah,
well, you know, I look at your work, and you know, you're using a pretty bold color palette to most of all the paintings I've seen of your work.
Yeah.
And that combined with the size, I mean, it does really, you can't help but be grabbed, attention-wise by what you see in one of your paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. And you've come up against different challenges in working with this type of color and this type of size, because it's really easy to get gaudy or too flashy pretty quickly. So that's one of the things that I have to negotiate when I'm creating a piece, but that's hard to explain how that's done. It's really just a feeling.
Yeah, right. And like this painting that we have here now, that's like Crater Lake.
Yeah, that's
right?
Crater Lake. Yep.
And then the painting right behind us.
So I'm a motorcycle rider.
Yeah.
And I love just the sensation of riding my motorcycle and the feeling that gives me. And so this was just a memento to that, basically. This is Highway 1, Oregon, and I kind of blurred some of the edges here to make it feel like you're really moving into it. And it's just, it's a fun piece. So I call this one Moonlit Motorcycle Ride.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the piece here next to me. Now, tell me a little bit about that particular piece.
So I was recently asked to travel with a couple of bands and do some live work on stage.
Right, okay.
So this is really hip-hop influenced work.
Okay.
Soloists of Sound and some of our really talented local bands were a part of that showcase, and this was just kind of what came from that experience.
Right. Yeah, okay. Now, what kind of, now all these paintings are done in oil, or are you using acrylics? What are you using in terms of your media?
I really like acrylic because I like to work quickly.
Yeah.
And acrylic's really quite versatile. You know, you can get all kinds of nice blending. I mean, as you can see, you know, it just depends on how quickly you work with it, and just your sensitivities to it, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, we have some additional images of your work that the control room can bring up. So if you can bring those up, and we'll talk about. Now that's the Table Rocks.
Yeah.
That was the painting that got my attention when we met at the Art and Bloom event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And and then we've got the Crater Lake image there.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I'm a runner, and I love our Southern Oregon landscape. It's just phenomenal. And so I just like giving homage basically to the beauty of what it is that we get to experience.
Yeah,
you know?
right,
And I like reminding people about that, because we can get into our daily activities and forget about, you know, what's around us all the time and not get into it. And that's just, I like to inspire people to get outside and appreciate what we have.
Well, that's something that I've noticed in your work, is that, you know, you do pay homage to some of our finest landmarks around here, like the Pilot Rock image there.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else have you got?
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, a lot of what I see in theme-wise in your work is basically the idea of traveling, is what kind of I glean from your work.
Well, life is a process. It's a journey, right?
Yeah.
And I really like my artwork to bring you on that journey.
Yeah.
And remind you of that. So.
Now, what's that location there?
That's Silver Falls.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I was playing with some light and translucency there. Actually, I painted over that one.
Yeah?
Yeah,
really?
That's the gorilla piece here.
Okay.
Yeah. I was not all that, I mean, I liked what was happening, but I decided that I wanted to do something different, and that turned into this one right here.
Okay, well, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to the next.
Yeah, that's Caribou Lakes in the Marble Mountains.
Okay.
I really wanted to capture the spiritual sense of the sunsets up there, just awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time in Asia.
Right.
And that's where I did most of my teaching. We taught a lot at British and American international schools.
All right, okay.
And but the Asian influence was really strong, of course, being there. And so I loved the lotus flowers and what they represent. And so that just found its way into my artwork.
Yeah, because you've done a whole series of lotus flower kinds of images.
These were actually some of the first pieces I did when we got back to the U.S. about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yep, I called them garden art. A lot of these were actually done on wood, and I didn't have my studio at the time. I was just painting on the side of the house, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked this series. I was quite prolific that summer, and got a lot of good flower paintings out there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's go on to the next.
That's Ganesh. And Ganesh is known for, breaking barriers, and that's a big part of my process right now is breaking through my own, expectations about being a professional artist and the challenges therein. And so, and growing up, I had one of these, like instead of a teddy bear, I had a Ganesh basically.
Yeah.
And Ganesh generally swallows the barriers that are in the way, and I didn't really like that as much, so I made this one a little more fit and just powerful in that manner.
All right.
Yeah. And my brother my brother Jacob is a yoga teacher, and for his birthday he wanted a painting, so I did that for him.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was that first summer back as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, typically when you get the idea for a painting, what's that process like once you start, and how long is the process to completion?
That's a fun question, and in your asking it, because generally I'm not really paying attention to what it is that inspires me to do something, because I want to be open to that inspiration. I don't want to have it contrived in any manner. So what I do is I really work hard in figuring out what it is that my spirit is responding to. So what is going to fuel, because these are a lot of work.
Yes.
And I don't want to be halfway through it and bored, right? So I wait to really feel into what it is that's going to inspire me and give me that emotional charge to carry me through the work.
Right.
Because I run into a lot of challenges on these because of their size and figuring out how the whole thing's going to work. And if I were to get bored in that, I think that would come out in the painting. And so I really just it's very much an inward and an outward experience in negotiating what's going to inspire me, what's going to keep me emotionally charged.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, that's outdoors.
Right.
It's adventure. It's a sense of a journey.
Yeah, and so I mean, you're once you've got that process started, and you talk about being this kind of a quick kind of a process that you do.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking like a few hours to completion, or is it a few days? I mean, because some artists that I've had, take a really kind of long, detailed approach to their work.
Yeah. So I realized I work with a sense of urgency generally. I put myself in positions with my work where I have a lot of problems to solve because I work quickly.
Yeah.
But I feel like that helps me actually to come up with really creative ideas for solving those problems.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where the magic happens. If I were to just sketch out everything and work on one piece, for a year, it would probably be beautiful. But I think that there's a certain magic and spontaneity that's captured. In working like that.
When I look at your work, I certainly see a certain energy and vibrancy to the overall images that I see. And it's kind of really. I mean, you've got such a unique style. And
thank you.
And a lot of artists, take a while to kind of identify or define that style that makes them.
I'm still. I think every artist is always determining what's that, because things change us all the time.
Yeah.
You can have one idea or one experience, and then you're a new person. And how do you share that with your gifts to the world, basically?
Right.
So it's again, that brings us back to the journey. It's even. There's no you're there type of thing. It's all a journey, and so I think that comes out.
What was it in your journey that you're through now that also got you into doing the ceramics?
Yeah, so I didn't discover ceramics until college, actually.
Okay.
I love working with my hands, and then when I discovered clay, there was it was really profound for me. I didn't even work the pottery wheel for the first year because I was sculpting things, and I loved the body. So I loved figure drawing and then creating, because I've always been an athlete and really in my body in a way, and did yoga and most of my family are massage therapists and whatnot, and artists. So we've got a real sensual feel. And when I was able to start playing with clay, I felt really at home. Like, it just feels super natural to me to be able to play and experiment with mud, basically.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You know, and because I love being able to get dirty and have that a part of what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I like pushing it to the edge. Some of the work that I think that you have, some of the images, I like taking the ceramics and really, again, like I do here with my paintings, is create challenges for myself that I have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because in those challenges, that's where you get like the brilliant creative ideas that turn into something that's worth having in your life.
Right, yeah. Well, we have some additional set of images of your ceramics.
Mm-hmm.
So if the control room can bring those images up, and we'll begin to talk about some of what you're doing ceramic-wise.
All right.
So this is like one of your style cups that you do.
Yeah.
Now, ceramic-wise, are all your cups drinkable and microwavable use and all that kind of stuff? Or because I know that some ceramics, are kind of more decorative in design and intent.
Yeah. Yep. So recently, my wife was reading a Sunset magazine and learned that so much of the regular wear that we get from like Target or big box stores actually has lead in them. Mm-hmm. And we met a friend that recently came and purchased some pottery from me at my latest open studio, and she had lead poisoning, and so it was this really big aha moment for her and a reminder to me why I love creating something that I get to use and I know doesn't have lead or mercury and so on and so forth in it. So yes, I use only food grade.
Right.
And I don't do raku. I think it's incredibly beautiful, but I really like having something that I can use.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting to me, to be able to. This is one that a friend made. So can I transition into what I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
So making a living as an artist is sometimes a little tricky, and you have to be kind of creative about how you do it. So one of the things that I'm doing is, you've seen the paint your own mug stores and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing sgraffito your own mug. And so I throw the mug on the wheel, and then I have sip and sgraffito parties, basically. And then they get to choose which one they like, and it's still just a naked clay body. And then they paint on, this is the sgraffito. You paint on an iron oxide or an engobe, and then it dries very quickly, like 2 minutes or less. Okay. And then you carve it off. And so that's what has happened here.
Yeah, okay.
And then I take it, I glaze the inside, and then it's a finished piece. So that's just a fun thing that I'm working on. And then people have a lot of ownership, and they can do their own thing with that, which is fun.
Yeah.
So we get to. I really love giving people an experience.
Yeah.
And then they have a memento from that for the rest of. They can even. The way that we know our history is through our ceramics, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's one of the reasons for, in a way, for why I do the show that I do, is because art is always very representative of a culture and a society, and I use the show here as a way to kind of document the art culture here in Southern Oregon.
Yeah.
We all you artists kind of contribute to and reflect on what's going on, and in small ways and big ways. So. I think it's important to kind of get these stories out here, kind of tell your story and showcase what you do. One of the things that I noticed when I went to your studio a couple of weeks ago was you have one of the things you do with your cups is that you kind of create an indentation.
Yeah.
Yep. so it's kind of like a natural indentation, for the thumb to kind of naturally sit.
Yeah. Doesn't that feel good?
It does.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've seen that kind of a feature in a cup in my life, and I just thought, oh, well, that's really kind of cool.
Yeah, and because it reminds people that this is really plastic. Like the plasticity of the clay is so alive, and you can really do anything with it. I mean, for instance, you can see these pieces here where I threw these on the wheel and then tore them apart and then reconstructed them and put them back on the wheel and then did the rim so that it's nice to drink from. But the idea is that, these are something that are created in such a manner that is by hand, basically. Mm-hmm. I'm really embracing that. It's not something that is on the production line, so to speak, but is made by hand with intention and the user's experience in mind, basically.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, are you in terms of, or do you have like any representation? Are you like in any galleries right now where people can go and see your work, or is it just you're just like doing your thing online?
That's a really interesting question, because today's art world and the world in general is so different. I mean, people are stepping more into these than they are into galleries.
Yeah.
And so I'm 40, I'm in my 40s, and I can still embrace what's happening there. And it's, as being an artist is an entrepreneur, And so what I'm doing is I'm embracing the social media that we have right now and all the tools that we have there. As soon as you get into a gallery or something, you need to double basically your costs, and so that you can share with the gallery that's doing all that work.
Yeah.
But Etsy and Facebook and Instagram and all of these modern day, apps and social media venues that we have are essentially free or very low cost. And if a person can find the courage and their voice and the discipline to show up there, I don't think you need a gallery quite as. Not that I don't love stepping into galleries and totally believe they have their place. But someday I very well might be in a gallery. But I really like being able to sell my work at a price that a lot of people can reach.
And so in that regard, now what's kind of like the price range for your work, painting wise and ceramic wise?
Pricing is super interesting part, because the value is in whatever someone buys it for, right? So, and you can go by how much time you put into it, what the emotional experience is for you. But I've decided to just do all my paintings at $2 a square inch. And then every year, it's going to go up 25 cents. But I also offer giclée prints. We've got a fantastic giclée printmaker here in the valley, so I do limited edition giclée prints. I've sold this one recently and hung, which was really beautiful. And those are only 50 cents a square inch. And you can get those almost the same size. They're gallery ready. They're wrapped on canvas. They're really beautiful. You shouldn't be able to tell the difference. And the size is really the only thing that should give it away. So that's an opportunity for everyone to be able to afford having something that's also going to go up in value, is the idea. Knock on wood, a lot of people that have enormous amounts of money, and they sink it into art, actually, because it's one thing that retains its value and actually goes up too, which is pretty fun.
Now, what about your ceramics? What's the general price range on like your ceramic cups and the plates and?
So it's generally about $25 a piece, 20 to 25. Most of the sgraffito is 30 because it's a process, and there's a lot of handling and coaching, teaching that goes into it. But I do like local business mugs as well. So this is Angelica Owens. She's a photographer in Medford, and she came across my work and loves it. So I made her a few stamped mugs. And so I do that as well, and those are 25 a piece.
Okay.
I'm doing a number of those actually, which is quite fun. I like working with local businesses.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, Ben, it's really I'm really glad that you were able to come on the show and talk about your life and your work. You got a really unique style to what you're doing. In terms of sculptures like this, is the last kind of thing before we wrap up here.
Yeah.
Like what's kind of like the general range for something like that?
I honestly have not sold that many of these, but that would be between 1,000 and 3,000, depending on the size. They take up a lot of room in the kiln. They take a bit of time, but they are incredibly fun to do, and I actually leave them out in the garden. I love having. I do a lot of water features, and I like putting them around my waterfall type of thing, and they're just incredibly fun to have in the garden. They're a little bit of a wow part. So.
Yeah, well, I can see that. I can see it definitely being used that way. And does your rabbit, kind of hang out with them?
Yeah, Bimble Snuff, my Holland Lop. Yeah, actually, I have a fantastic photo of him just recently hanging out there.
All right.
Yeah, you've been over to the studio, hung out in the backyard. Yeah, we've got a crazy rabbit.
Well, Ben, it's time to wrap things up, and so I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
And so this is we've reached the end of our show, Rogue Artisans and Crafters, and we want to thank you at home for joining us and learning about our featured artist, Ben Wood. And we wish to thank Ben for agreeing to come on the show and discuss his life as an artist. I encourage you, the viewer, to visit Ben's official sites and his Etsy store to learn more about his artwork. And so I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow, and we will see you next time. We wish to thank you for watching Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can watch this program on demand by visiting rvtv.sou.edu. You can also follow our show on Facebook by visiting and liking our official show page. Just search for Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can follow me, David Glamour Dave Nienow, online at my YouTube channel and on Facebook. If you like this show and wish to support me in my show productions at RVTV, you can visit my Patreon page at patreon.com/glamourdave and become a patron supporter of my television and documentary productions. We want to thank our crew who have made it possible to put this program together, and to thank RVTV for their wonderful studio facility, which allows us to produce shows such as this one. I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow, and we will see you next time.